Hello, friends. This is Confessions with Amy. Here we share new confessions every day.
In some families, love is conditional. In mine, it came with a receipt, and my balance was always due. I was raised in a house where love felt more like a transaction than an emotion. My mother, Callista, had a way of making everything feel like a debt. You owe me, she'd say, whether it was about the roof over my head, the food on the table, or just existing. As a child, I internalized that. I became the good daughter, quiet, responsible, always 2 steps ahead, straight as early graduation scholarships. I never gave her a reason to complain, but it never mattered. She always found a way to remind me that I was less than. Not good enough, not grateful enough, not selfless enough. My father left when I was 14. Callista never forgave him, and she never stopped making me his replacement. His emotional stand-in. His financial stand-in. After college, I moved to Seattle for a UX design job. I was finally starting to build something that felt like mine. Then she called. The house was going into foreclosure. She had fallen behind on payments after some bad investments and a short stint trying to start a candle business. And suddenly, my success wasn't mine anymore. It was the family's salvation. Just for a little while, she said. Until I get back on my feet. You're doing so well, Juniper. You can afford it. Juniper. That's me. And because I still hadn't unlearned what it meant to be a good daughter, I agreed. I took over the mortgage. $1,268.42 a month. Not a small ask, but I didn't hesitate. I even cut back on my own apartment and moved in with roommates so I could keep up with it. The first year, she was grateful, or at least pretended to be. By year 3, it was like I'd never helped at all. She'd remodeled the kitchen to increase the house's value, went on a retreat in Sedona, bought herself a massage chair. I never said a word. I didn't want to be petty. I told myself she's my mother. She deserves some peace. But deep down, I felt it, resentment, like a slow poison, building under my skin. Still, I kept paying, month after month, for 5 years. Until the day she sat me down at her kitchen table with a glass of iced tea and said the words I'll never forget. I finalized my will. You won't be getting a dime. I blinked. Laughed, actually. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. You've had enough help from me growing up, she said. And I want everything to go to someone who actually respects me. She met my cousin Melrose. Melrose, who lived 3 states away and only called on Christmas. Melrose, who posted selfies with inspirational quotes like "family is everything," but hadn't sent a birthday card in 10 years. I set the glass down calmly. In that case, I said, my voice colder than I expected. Don't expect a dime from me either. She didn't argue. She just nodded like she'd won something. I walked out of that house with nothing but my keys and a spine I didn't know I had. And that's where my real story begins. Walking out of that house felt like crossing a burning bridge. Only I was the one who'd lit the match, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and stared through the windshield for what felt like hours. It was strangely quiet. Not outside, but in me. Like the part of my brain that always played her voice on loop had finally gone still. The next morning, I woke up in my tiny shared apartment in Capitol Hill. My roommates were already in the kitchen talking about some party I'd never go to, and I sat on my bed thinking, what now? I'd just cut off someone I'd spent my entire adult life trying to please. I was no longer the dutiful daughter. I was just me. And I had no idea who me even was. I called the bank first. Told them I would no longer be making payments on the house. They warned me of the consequences. I told them I understood. I didn't. I blocked her number. She emailed me twice, cold, sharp emails. No apology. No regret. Just, I hope you're proud of yourself. Don't come crawling back when you're broke and alone. I didn't respond. I archived them. Then I started therapy. Twice a week, every week, for 6 months. I told my therapist, her name was Astrid, with turquoise glasses and a terrifying ability to ask the exact questions I didn't want to answer. Everything. I told her about the way Callista used money like a leash, the way she rewrote history to make herself the victim, the way she made me feel like I was selfish for wanting anything. Astra didn't tell me to forgive. She told me to recognize. You were trained to love conditionally. It makes sense that this feels like betrayal. But what you're feeling isn't betrayal. It's grief. Grief for a version of your mother that never existed. That hit me harder than anything. Work became my anchor. I stopped offering to take on every project just to prove I was worth keeping. I raised my freelance rates. Doubled them, actually. And clients stayed. Some even thanked me for finally valuing my time. I stopped apologizing in emails. Stopped saying just checking in and if that's okay. Started writing like someone who knew what she was doing. And I did. I really did. 3 months later, Callista lost the house. Melrose posted a cryptic Instagram story. Some people get what they deserve. I didn't know who it was about. Didn't care. I was busy researching places in Lisbon. That was the plan now, remote work, new city, no ghosts. But before I left, I did one last thing. I transferred every receipt, every payment confirmation, every email about the mortgage into a folder on my desktop. And I renamed the folder. I owe you nothing. I landed in Lisbon on a rainy Tuesday with 2 suitcases, a MacBook, and a strange new feeling in my chest. Peace. Not joy. Not excitement. Not even relief. Just the quiet, unshakable calm that comes when no one knows your name, your story, or what you owe them. I'd never lived like that before. The Airbnb I rented was a 3rd-floor walk-up in the Alfama district, all terracotta rooftops and cracked mosaic tiles. The walls were whitewashed, the windows tall, and in the mornings, sunlight poured in like it had somewhere to be. I had nowhere to be, and that was the point. The first week, I worked from coffee shops with chipped mugs and handwritten menus. The espresso was strong, the pastries too sweet. I ordered both anyway. In between meetings and mock-ups, I just sat. No one interrupting. No one guilt-tripping. No Callista in my head telling me I was wasting time, wasting money, wasting potential. I had clients in Zurich, Amsterdam, and LA. Good people. Respectful. They paid on time, called me brilliant, and never asked if I was going to visit my family for the holidays. One night, I sat on the rooftop of a hostel, drinking green wine with 2 Canadian sisters who were teaching English abroad. They asked about my story. Not my job. Not my accomplishments. My story. And for the first time, I told it out loud. The house. The will. The walkout. They both went quiet after. Then one of them said, "Damn. That's brutal. But also, that's some movie-level growth arc shit." We laughed until we cried. By month 2, I'd settled into a rhythm. Morning walks through narrow alleys. Father music drifting from windows. Grocery runs where I stumbled through Portuguese and always left with too much cheese. I was still working, still saving, but now I was also living. I bought books I didn't need. Spent afternoons sketching in parks. Started learning how to make pastéis de nata from a grumpy old woman named Leontina who never smiled until she did. And I realized something strange. My self-worth had decoupled from productivity. I didn't have to earn rest. Didn't have to justify joy. Sometimes I'd wonder if Callista ever thought about me. If she regretted choosing pride over connection. If she still believed I didn't deserve a dime. But then I'd remember. She didn't just cut me out of her will. She cut herself out of my life. I didn't reach out. Didn't unblock her. Didn't send postcards or guilt-laced updates. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. And freedom, I was learning, is priceless. It happened in early spring. I'd been in Lisbon for almost 6 months. My Portuguese was still awful, but my sense of self? Unrecognizable. In the best way. I'd become someone who booked spontaneous train trips. Who said yes to gallery openings with strangers. Who didn't check her phone every 5 minutes for emotional landmines. Then came the message. It wasn't from Callista. It was from Melrose. A DM on Instagram of all places. "Hey, June, didn't know you were living the expat dream. Hope Lisbon's treating you well. Just thought you should know. Callista's not doing great. She's been asking about you. No apology. No context. Just the suggestion that it was time to put the past aside and do the right thing. I stared at the message like it was written in some ancient language. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I'd finally stopped expecting it. I didn't respond. I archived it. 2 days later, she messaged again. This time it was shorter. You're being cruel, June. She's your mother. The funny thing about gaslighting is that once you've healed from it, it becomes so obvious. They don't ask how you are. They ask why you haven't come back to the role they wrote for you. They don't say, she's sorry. They say, you owe her another chance. I sat with it. Not the guilt, but the absence of it. And then I did something that would have terrified the old me. I posted a photo. Just me, coffee in hand, sunlight in my hair, sitting outside my favorite cafe. No filter. Just the caption. Not all who walk away are lost. Some are finally home. Melrose left it on scene. I knew she'd send it to Callista. That was the point. The past didn't stop there. A week later, I got an email from a man named Raymond, Callista's lawyer. Apparently, she was reconsidering her estate plans and wanted to have a reconciliatory conversation with me via Zoom. The idea of Callista asking a lawyer to schedule a Zoom call to talk to her own daughter? So perfectly on brand, I almost laughed out loud. I declined. Politely. I told him there would be no reconciliation. That I wished her peace, but I was not available for negotiations disguised as healing, and that any future communication should go through my own lawyer. Did it hurt? Not really. What hurt was how predictable it all was. That the moment I became unavailable as a resource, I suddenly became emotionally valuable. But I wasn't angry. I didn't need revenge. Didn't want to prove anything anymore. The real revenge? Living beautifully. Quietly. Fully. Without permission. Without apology. And most of all, without them. They don't tell you that once you cut out toxic people, there's a void. Even if they hurt you, they still filled space. Their voice was familiar. Their chaos routine. So when you finally break free, you don't just feel free. You feel empty. It's the kind of emptiness that creeps in on slow Sunday mornings. The kind that wraps around your ankles at night when the city goes quiet. No more drama. No more expectations. Just silence. And that silence, it can echo. I noticed it most in the little things. Like grocery shopping. I'd see a new flavor of jam and reach for my phone to text someone. And then stop mid-swipe. Who would I tell? Who cared? I had acquaintances. I had friendly neighbors. I had a barista named Leo who always remembered my order. But I didn't have a person. Until I met Camille. It started in a laundromat. I'd messed up the settings on the machine. Everything came out soaking wet. I stood there like an idiot, holding a dripping ball of jeans, already dreading the walk home. Camille walked in with a tote bag full of linens and saw me, soaked and defeated. She didn't laugh. Didn't ignore me. She just said, with the flattest, most Parisian accent I'd ever heard, "You look like a drowned poet. You need help." I did. But more than that, I needed her. Camille was everything I wasn't. Loud. Chaotic. Brilliantly unbothered. She lived alone in a mismatched apartment that always smelled like rosemary and cigarette smoke. She painted, bartended, dated wildly inappropriate men, and somehow made it all look cinematic. And yet, around me, she softened. We started spending weekends together. Cooking. Drinking cheap wine. Watching old French films and mocking them mercilessly. She never asked about my family. Not at first. She let me unfold slowly, like a crumpled note pulled from the back pocket of an old coat. One night, we were sitting on the floor of her living room, surrounded by paints and empty bottles, when she finally asked, "Your mom? She's still in the picture?" I didn't flinch. Didn't shrink. I just said, "She cut me out of her will. I cut her out of my life." Camille paused. Then she said, "Sounds like you both made the right choice." And just like that, something in me unlocked. Camille wasn't perfect. She forgot birthdays. Canceled plans last minute. Occasionally disappeared for days at a time on what she called emotional sabbaticals. But she saw me. She didn't see a daughter who failed her mother. She saw a woman who'd survived something unspeakable and still found joy in almond croissants and late-night painting. And when I told her, weeks later, about the message from Melrose, about the lawyer, the Zoom call, the guilt, she didn't say call her. She didn't say you'll regret this. She said, you gave enough blood. Now you owe yourself healing. I'd spent so long trying to earn love from people who treated it like currency, who kept score, who only gave it when I was convenient. Camille reminded me that love doesn't need a ledger. That family doesn't have to be blood. That being seen and accepted as is was the rarest kind of inheritance. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a daughter. I felt like a whole person. It started with a certified letter, forwarded from my old mailing address in Seattle. My roommate texted, "Hey, June, this looks legal. You want me to open it?" I told her yes. 3 hours later, I had a PDF in my inbox. A scanned letter from Raymond, the same lawyer who'd reached out months ago. But this time, it wasn't a request for reconciliation. It was a notification of transfer. Apparently, Callista had fallen ill. Nothing terminal, but enough to shake whatever fortress of pride she'd built around herself. And now she was moving into an assisted living facility, selling off her assets to cover the cost, including the house. My house. I stared at the letter, rereading the phrase. Property acquired under sole ownership, with past financial contributions from Ms. Juniper Rhodes, unrecorded. Unrecorded. 5 years of mortgage payments. Over $70,000. No contract. No protection. Just trust. And now, legally, it was all hers. Except, there was a twist. Apparently, Raymond had discovered a folder. A thick, dusty manila folder marked House, Mortgage, Then. Inside, every receipt. Every PayPal transfer. Every email where Callista had thanked me, confirmed the payment, even acknowledged that I was covering everything for now. In short, evidence. It wasn't notarized, but it was enough for a strong civil claim. Enough for leverage. Raymond's letter closed with, "Ms. Rhodes, should you wish to pursue reimbursement or partial equity rights to the property, we recommend legal counsel. Ms. Callista Moore has expressed a willingness to negotiate directly." Negotiate. Not apologize. Not repay. Negotiate. I showed Camille the letter over coffee. She didn't say anything at first. Just read it 3 times, chain-smoking and sipping espresso like it was plot development. Then she looked up at me and said, "What do you want?" No one had ever asked me that without following it with a lecture. And what did I want? The money? The house? Retribution? I thought about it for a long time. I called my lawyer. Yes, I had one now. Her name was Kira. Sharp. Efficient. Wore Doc Martens with her power suits. I asked her to draft a letter. A single paragraph. No room for negotiation. It read, "Ms. Rhodes will not be pursuing reimbursement for mortgage payments rendered between 2018 to 2023. However, she requests her name and contributions be removed from all further financial or legal discussion regarding Ms. Moore's estate, property, or care. Effective immediately, she severs all personal and fiduciary connection." Kira raised an eyebrow. "You sure? This is clean. Cold even. No second chances." I nodded. I'm not interested in what she's offering. I'm interested in closure. A week later, I got a 1-line email from Raymond. Received. No further contact will be made. Wishing you peace. And just like that, it was done. No payout. No drama. No theatrical deathbed confession. Just silence. The kind that doesn't echo. The kind that heals. Sometimes, power doesn't look like revenge. Sometimes power is not replying. Not proving. Not showing up to a conversation just because someone finally invited you to the table they once pushed you away from. That table? I burned it a long time ago. Now I dine elsewhere. With people who pass the salt and never ask for my soul in return. My 27th birthday came quietly. No dramatic toasts. No surprise party. Just a warm Lisbon evening, a table for 2, and a lemon tart with exactly 2 candles because the bakery ran out of numbers. Camille lit them anyway. We sat on a rooftop overlooking the Tagus River. The breeze carried music from somewhere below, accordion maybe, or someone trying. The city felt like it always had to me, kind to those who needed space to rebuild. I leaned forward, ready to blow out the candles, and Camille asked, "So, what are you wishing for?" I didn't answer. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't need to wish for anything. A year ago, I would have wished for things to be different. For Callista to wake up one day and say, "I'm sorry, June. You were enough all along." I would have wished for that missing maternal softness I saw in other families. Wished for a redo. A version of my childhood where I wasn't negotiating for affection like it was rent. But now, I didn't want that anymore. Not because I had it, but because I no longer needed it to feel whole. That's what freedom really is. Not money. Not revenge. Not even escape. Freedom is being able to look at the empty chair at the table. The one that should have been filled by a mother, a sister, a family, and feel peace, not pain. To stop writing letters to people who never read them. To stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. To live well, not in spite of them, but without them. I still keep the folder. The one with all the mortgage receipts. It's digital now, password protected, buried in a file titled, "Proof I was always enough." I don't open it much, but I keep it. Not for courtrooms, not for closure. For me. To remember who I was when no one clapped. To honor the girl who paid the bills, held the line, and walked away alone. That night, Camille gave me a gift. It wasn't fancy. Just a small, silver bracelet with one word engraved on the inside. Untethered. I cried. Not the loud, ugly kind of crying. The quiet kind. The kind that feels like stepping out of a too-tight jacket you didn't know you'd been wearing your whole life. They say you can't choose your family, but you can choose yourself. Every day. In every small, defiant, beautiful way. I didn't get a mother. Didn't get a thank you. Didn't get a dime. But I got my life back. And now every cent I earn, every step I take, every joy I claim, is mine. And that's wealth no one can ever take away.